He wrote of a future where men would bow to mirrors and call it progress. The ink bled like prophecy on the palm leaves, and Dante Salava whispered, "The age of reflection will come, and silence will die." Centuries later, under Tokyo's neon sky, Aya Tanaka stared at a glowing screen, showing the same words, her breath trembling. How could a monk from 2,000 years ago describe her world so perfectly? And if he saw this future, what did he fear most? The machines or the hearts that built them? Aya Tanaka's fingers trembled as she brushed away centuries of dust. The fragment was real, the script unmistakably ancient. Each curve of ink seemed alive, warning her in silence. She traced the title etched faintly in Pali, Mirror Sutra. The letters shimmered as if remembering a world yet to come. She whispered, "How could he know?" The air around her felt heavier, like the past was leaning in to listen. Far away in the folds of time, Dante Salava sat beneath a bodhi tree, eyes half closed, hearing visions not of heavens but of glowing cities, towers of light, faces shining from small glass windows, people praying not with words, but with clicks. The visions frightened him. He began to write, his heart beating against the silence. When man builds his mirror, truth will vanish from his face. He paused, feeling the future watching him back. Aya sat across from Professor Nakamura, the glow of the document scanner flickering between them. "It describes a world of glass mirrors that speak," she whispered. Nakamura chuckled. "Every era believes it's been predicted. Don't chase ghosts, Aya." But her eyes didn't blink. Then why did he write this? They will see themselves everywhere and know nothing of who they are. Silence filled the lab, heavier than proof. Night descended over Tokyo. Aya walked home through the electric storm of advertisements flashing across glass towers, smiling faces, promises of happiness, endless reflections. In one display window, her own face appeared multiplied 100 times. For a moment, she heard the faint echo of chanting, ancient, steady, calling her name. She turned sharply. No one was there, only her reflection staring back as if it knew. Roll. Under the sterile hum of fluorescent lights, Aya began decoding the fragile palm leaf text. When men worship their own image, they will forget the breath that gives it life. Each line felt alive, written not to be read, but to be remembered. She typed the translation slowly, afraid each word might awaken something too ancient to name. As thunder rolled outside, she whispered, "Was he warning us, or describing us?" In another age, Bhante Salava presented his verses to the elder monks. The world of reflections will come, men will see themselves everywhere, and know nothing of who they are. The elders exchanged wary glances. One whispered, "You speak of illusions, not truths." Salava bowed. "Illusions are the truths we refuse to face." Silence stretched. The incense smoke rose like questions that no one dared to answer. Aya scrolled through the translation. "They will live in towers of glass. Their gods will speak from shining screens. Their children will be born to numbers." Each verse hit harder than the last. She looked up at her reflection in the black monitor. A modern woman reading her own fate written 2 millennia ago. "How could he see this?" she whispered. "How could he see me? See." At the monastery, Bhante Salava stood alone in the prayer courtyard as wind howled through the banyan trees. "You saw cities of light again?" a young novice asked. "No," Salava replied softly. "I saw hearts of glass, shining but hollow." The novice trembled. "Should we warn them?" Salava looked toward the horizon. "They will not listen until their mirrors break." Aya printed the first translated page. "Mirror, nor she wakes, nor Raish. The title glowed under the desk lamp. The Sutra of Mirrors. She stared at the final verse for hours. When the mirror speaks, truth will fall silent. In that silence, her phone buzzed with messages, screens lighting the room like restless spirits. She turned it off. The world outside kept glowing louder than any prayer. The monastery bell tolled like a warning. Bhante Salava stood before the council again, scroll clutched to his chest. This sutra is dangerous, an elder declared. It plants doubt, not faith. Salava bowed low, voice steady. Truth is never dangerous, only silence is. The head monk struck the floor with his staff. Then you shall be silent. Outside, crows screamed across the sky, black against the morning sun. Aya stood in Professor Nakamura's office, holding her translation. It predicts everything. Our obsession with screens, our loneliness, our noise. Nakamura frowned. You've crossed a line. Academia thrives on proof, not prophecy. His voice dropped to a whisper. Publish this and they'll bury your career. Aya met his eyes. Then let them bury me with it. For the first time, he had no answer. The elders gathered by torchlight. Burn it, one whispered. Flames crackled as palm leaves curled, ink turning to smoke. Bhante Salava watched in silence. The words he wrote rising into the night sky like lost prayers. The truth, he thought, cannot be burned. It only changes form. He pressed his palms together, and for the first time smiled through tears. In Tokyo, Aya's inbox flooded with rejection letters. Unverified source, pseudo-historical. Withdraw your paper. She sat frozen before the glowing screen, realizing that disbelief could be more violent than fire. Outside, rain smeared the neon skyline into liquid color. Her phone rang. Nakamura. His voice was low. They've started an inquiry. Delete everything. The call ended, leaving her in silence broken only by thunder. Far across time, Bhante Salava buried the last surviving copy of the sutra beneath the roots of the Bodhi tree. Let truth sleep, he whispered, until the world forgets its mirrors. In Tokyo, Aya pressed save on a hidden drive and looked out at the pulsing city. Two souls separated by centuries, bound by the same vow, to keep truth alive beneath the noise. The rain never stopped. In Tokyo, streets shimmered like liquid mirrors. Aya walked through the endless reflections, her face multiplied 1,000 times, each one smiling, crying, vanishing. Above her, screens screamed promises of happiness. Inside her, Bhante Salava's words echoed like thunder. When men love their reflections, their hearts will go blind. She looked up, and for a heartbeat, saw him, a monk in the rain, watching her through centuries. In ancient Lanka, war drums echoed through the valley. The monastery that once sang of silence now burned with the roar of men and fire. Bhante Salava watched from the forest edge, robes soaked in ash and rain. The scroll was gone, the words scattered, but he felt them alive in the wind. So it begins, he murmured. The mirror age. The temple bell cracked and fell, its sound swallowed by a storm. Aya dreamed of fire. She saw palm leaves turning to glowing screens, monks chanting through radio static. Bhante Salava reached out through the flames, whispering, "Remember what they burned." She woke with a scream, sweat cold on her skin, city lights flickering like dying candles. For the first time she believed, not in science, but in memory that crossed lifetimes. Bhante Salava wandered the forest, alone. He no longer prayed for peace, only for remembrance. Around him lightning tore the sky open, revealing the world's impermanence in every flash. He whispered, "When noise becomes God, silence must hide in caves." The wind carried his words into the mountains, where someday someone would hear them again. Tokyo dimmed under a power surge. The billboards went black. Silence flooded the streets for the first time in years. Aya stood among strangers, staring at their dead screens, the city suddenly breathing again. A soft chant rose in her mind, the same from her dreams. She whispered, "Pepant, I hear you." Somewhere beyond the neon night, the age of reflections began to crack. Aya walked through the city as dawn broke. For the first time, there were no reflections in the puddles, only sky. The silence from the blackout still lingered, heavy but pure. She carried the printed sutra under her coat, each verse a heartbeat. "He buried the truth," she whispered, and it waited. The trains were silent, the screens asleep. Yet the world felt more alive than ever before. In her dreams, Bhante Salava's voice returned, "Follow the river that forgets its name." She awoke with a start, eyes wide, the phrase echoing in her mind. That afternoon, she traveled to Sri Lanka, to the ruins of Mihantale, the birthplace of the first monks. Locals spoke of a hidden cave sealed since the Great Fire. Aya's heart raced. The prophecy wasn't just words, it was a map. Bhante Salava's spirit lingered in that same cave centuries before. He sat before the sealed stone wall, chanting softly as he placed the final verse behind it. "Let the age of mirrors end where silence begins," he said. He smiled faintly, then pressed his palm against the rock. Light seeped through the cracks, not from fire, but from within. He closed his eyes. The world faded to stillness. Aya entered the cave through crumbled stone. Her flashlight flickered as if resisting the sacred dark. She found the sealed wall, covered in vines and faint carvings, the same verses she'd translated. She brushed away the dust, whispering, "When the mirror speaks." The last stone shifted, revealing a hollow filled with gold dust and a single scroll wrapped in silk. The air trembled, as if the past had been waiting to exhale. She unrolled the scroll. The final verse read, "When humans love their shadows more than their souls, the world will freeze, until silence is remembered." Aya closed her eyes, and tears fell. Outside, thunder rolled across the distant hills, the sound of awakening. For the first time, she wasn't afraid. She smiled through her tears and whispered, "I remember." Tokyo flickered like a dying lantern. Networks crashed, satellites fell silent, screens turned to static. People poured into the streets, their faces blank. The mirrors had stopped speaking. Aya watched from her apartment window as the city's glow faded into a deep, living darkness. The sutra lay open before her. "When the mirror shatters," she whispered, "truth will see itself again." Far away, in a place no longer bound by time, Bhante Salava opened his eyes within the void. He saw the same towers of glass and the same silent crowds he had once imagined. "The reflection has forgotten its source," he murmured. The wind answered with a whisper, "But one remembers." He folded his hands, smiling. His prophecy had found its listener. Aya's mentor, Professor Nakamura, sat in his dark office surrounded by blank monitors. He stared at the printed sutra Aya had left on his desk. His trembling fingers traced the last verse. "The world will freeze," he whispered. He warned us all. Lightning flashed outside. The next moment, the power returned, flooding the room with light. But his heart had already stopped. A faint smile rested on his lips. The blackout spread across continents. News anchors screamed. Servers died, and the world lost its reflection overnight. Yet amid the panic, Aya live-streamed from her phone. Not panic, but peace. She read the Sutra of Mirrors aloud, her voice soft and unwavering. "Let silence return." Millions watched in the dark, faces lit only by her voice. For the first time, people listened, not to a screen, but to silence between her words. Or when he is mind, As the final line left her lips, a strange calm swept through the world. The air grew still. The city lights slowly reignited, not in chaos, but in harmony. I closed the sutra and bowed. In that moment, Bhante Salava's voice returned, soft as the wind. "You have remembered," she smiled, tears glimmering like stars. The prophecy had ended not in destruction, but in awakening. The world was still. The screams no longer screamed, and the streets no longer rushed with empty noise. People stood in silence, listening, waiting for something they had forgotten how to hear. Aya stood at the edge of the city, the wind carrying the faintest echo of a monk's chant from centuries ago. In that moment, she knew. The sutra was not a warning, but a gift. Silence had returned not to erase the world, but to restore it. Bhante Salava sat beneath the Bodhi tree, his robes no longer wet with rain, but soft with the presence of eternal calm. "The mirror is not broken," he whispered, "but cleared now. Let the world see itself as it is." He closed his eyes, the whispers of the wind carrying his final prayer. A prayer not for salvation, but for remembrance. Across time, Aya felt it, the prayer of silence, and she smiled. The world, now awake, began to heal. People met each other's eyes without distraction, without haste. Aya stood in a small temple courtyard, holding the sutra in her hands, now the last of its kind. The final verse, "When the mirror speaks, truth will fall silent," had come full circle. The truth had been heard, and now it would be lived. The sutra was not the end, but the beginning. As the last verse echoed across the land, Bhante Salava's spirit joined the wind, the fire, the water. His chant resided in the hum of nature. "This is the world," he whispered. "The world not reflected in mirrors, but in hearts that remember." Aya felt it again, the echo of his words, but this time, it was her voice that carried the truth forward. Together, across centuries, they had found it. In the stillness, the world was reborn. No longer chasing reflections, no longer lost in the noise. People spoke less, but listened more. Aya sat beneath the Bodhi tree in Sri Lanka, the sutra resting in her lap, her eyes closed in meditation. "The world has remembered," she whispered. "Now it will be healed." And the wind, gentle as time, answered her with silence.